This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Hi, Bob. How's the drive from Memphis doing? And do you have any energy at all to drive after last night?
Oh yeah. No, I just pulled into the McDonald's here. I think I'm in Wynn. I don't think it's Forest City, but yeah, I was going to take a little. And I think hopefully they serve Egg McMuffins all day. Cause after I talk to you guys, I want to go ahead and get an Egg McMuffin. But
yeah, I think that's on the 24-hour menu. I'm pretty sure
that's the best thing McDonald's has, right? Like if we're talking because nobody else goes, you don't go to McDonald's for anything, but like an Egg McMuffin, we'll go get an egg. I mean,
I'll do a biscuit or a McGriddle.
Yeah. No, I think that's definitely their go-to. I mean, I know I've had my share of McDonald's cheeseburgers through the years.
Bob, you better watch out, man.
He's a sports writer.
Youthful,
come on,
your youth. Come on, man. I want you to be around. Don't be going to McDonald's.
They're supposed to eat at McDonald's. You just have some. Sooner or later, Bob, you'll share a bag of kale chips with Matt Jones, and your health quotient will just increase amazingly. Can you help make sense of that Liberty Bowl from last night? Because I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything. First of all, it was an incredibly entertaining game. Second of all, whoa! I mean, wow, that was nuts.
Yeah, I think if you didn't care who won, it was a great game to watch. Of course, we were worried about deadline. We knew we had the basketball game happening, and our desk was getting ready to get slammed with copy. And I remember Arkansas was up, we think, pretty comfortably. I think it was 38-23, I guess. And I remember thinking, okay, this game's going to be over at 8:15. That's not too bad. Anything under 4 hours these days. And then, I remember texting the editors and our photographer who's there, you want to communicate so they know what stories you're doing, so they know what art to pull. And I said, well, here's what I'm planning to do unless something crazy happens. And then when they tied at the door, I said, well, something crazy happens. Everything's kind of on hold, And I ended up writing about the freshmen that had big games, and that still held true. But it was almost like it was three different games. Part of the game, Arkansas was up 38-13, I think it is, early in the third quarter. And then Kansas scores the next 25 and sends it into OT. And then you have the OT where Arkansas kind of gets its footing back offensively for sure. And, the defense obviously was getting gashed, pretty good, especially in the passing game. But, they're playing a lot of young guys. And that you look at some of those calls, I mean, I'm sure Kansas felt like they got held on this play, or Arkansas felt like they got held on that. But that fumble by Landers did not. It looked like the ground caused it. And I don't know how in replay they upheld that fumble, but they did. And the targeting, that's such an iffy call. There's so many times the last few years I thought, well, that's definitely targeting. And then they wave it off, and I thought, well, there's no way that's targeting. And then they uphold it. But that was Arkansas. I'm almost positive that was Arkansas's first targeting call of the year. And of all the times to have it happen. But I'll give Arkansas credit because a lot of teams that blow big leads like that, I mean, you really felt like when it went in overtime, Kansas was ahead, even though the game obviously was tied. And Arkansas regrouped, and, I give Sam Pittman a lot of credit for going for two before he had to put the pressure on Kansas, because if they don't make that two, Kansas can win the game with a touchdown and an extra point. So I think there was a big sense of relief by Arkansas, but also a lot of elation. They obviously had a tough loss in Missouri and kind of a tough, last part of the season. So, there's a big difference between 6-7 and 7-6 and carrying that feeling into the off season.
Absolutely, man, Bob. They got that W, and that's what they had to do. Bob, I was watching Chris Paul Jr. and Quincy McAdoo on defense, and knowing they're both freshmen, that just got me excited. Looking forward to next year, man, because both of those dudes, I don't see any reason why either one of those guys can't be first team all conference next year. They're that good.
Yeah, I don't think McAdoo's going back on offense because he probably don't want to take.
He can make a lot of money playing defense, Bob. I think
because you can't hit guys as often. It looks like he's
physical, right? Yeah, he don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and Pooh Paul, I mean, he was playing. He played quite a bit because Bumper was banged up, and then you had Crook started, and the young guy. Somebody told you Rocket Sanders is going to have 3 carries. They're already reshuffled line. They're going to have to throw a true freshman in there who's barely played, Marion Harris. I mean, I give Arkansas credit. I mean, maybe people are going to listen to this and say,
it's tough to win. We won. You got to. I like it, Bob. I mean, we won the game. Yeah.
I just think there are some positives to build. A lot of young guys, Jaden Wilson, I think he caught one pass for 2 yards. He caught two passes for 40-something yards and a 2-point conversion. Dubinion not only ran the ball well, he had 3 catches for about 20 yards, and that wheel route on the 2-point play. I do remember thinking that, and KJ Jefferson, to me, he's a great quarterback to have it in overtime because he's like Matt was, true dual threat guy. But, I remember I was Harold Grader does a great job as a Liberty Bowl PR guy. We were out. I'd gone downstairs to the interview room, and then when all hell broke loose, I went out to the stadium to watch. And Harold says, "Well, you ever see anything like this?" And I said, "Harold, I covered Arkansas's 2 7 OT games with Matt Jones, and I covered a 6 OT game." And Matt, I don't know if you remember this, but you obviously had the 7 OT game against Ole Miss. Then that was 2001, I think. And then 2 years later, you guys went to Kentucky in 7 OTs, and we're out there kind of, listening to guys on the field, and Matt's getting there. I don't remember who it was, but ESPN sideline reporter, she says, I'm like, Matt, have you ever been through anything like this in your life? And Matt very calmly says, I'm like, well, yeah, I have, at Ole Miss. And I guess she forgot about it. I don't know if you remember that. We were listening to it. We were cracking up, but I'm not making fun of her. I don't even remember who it was. But that's the first thing I thought. Well, Harold said, have you seen? I said, man, I've covered some pretty wild games, and I guess this is another one. And, of course, they've changed the rules now where you don't do the true overtime.
Do you like that, Bob, after 2? Do you like that they go for 2 points now? Do you feel like it's a little gimmicky, or do you like it?
Well, I don't like it, but I'm also not the one out there playing. You were a player, and what I thought was funny, A&M and LSU went 7 overtimes, and everybody acted like, oh, my God, we can't put the players in that kind of danger again. I'm thinking, well, where were you guys when Arkansas was going 7 overtimes 2 times in 3 years and 6 overtimes? And you guys had the 6 overtime game at Tennessee.
At Tennessee, yeah. I still see Jason Witten going down the middle of the field. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, but I'm thinking, well, where were you guys then? But I get you. You obviously don't want to put the players, in harm's way, and you feel like, well, gosh, guys have played 100 snaps or whatever. They're much more vulnerable to injuries. You don't want some guy to go out there and, have a heart attack or something and, get overheated if it's an early season game in the day or something. But I like the true. I still like the old overtime, I guess. It's pretty weird when you start just doing 2-point plays. But actually, I'm not the one playing either. But I just always thought it was funny that they, the rules committee, whoever, is just like, oh, my God, we got to protect the players. And it's like, well, you guys didn't seem to care about the Razorbacks. They were playing 7 overtimes. So I don't know. As a former player, how do you feel about it?
Oh, Bob, we wanted to play. We didn't care at all. You would have played 12 overtimes. And Coach Nutt did a great job of that next week in practice, Bob. It would have been light. It would have been shorts only. Kind of walk through, stretching your legs, because you can't really go work that week. You got to kind of rest back up. And I want to say we won. After those 7 overtime games, we won. And even that 6 overtime game, we won the next week. And you look back at the other teams, and they didn't. It's because Coach Nutt, a player, I say this all the time, and you don't have to be a player at a high level to be a coach, but it does help when you have a guy that's played at that level because he understands a little bit better.
Yeah, and you guys are basically the overtime kings there. And I remember after the NCAA passed that rule, I called Houston, and he said, we're the last true teams to win in overtime because, they can go 10 overtimes if you're doing 2-point plays, and the same thing as putting the ball on 25 and saying, go get a couple first downs or, go score. So, I guess I get the changes, but I like it the old way. But, yeah, if you were just watching that game last night as a fan, it was a great game. But if you obviously were a fan of Arkansas or Kansas, and the Kansas fans were elated. The Arkansas fans were probably holding their breath. And I'm over there going, get this game over. I got to file my story,
Isn't it interesting, Bob? There is a movement in sports overall to shorten, and I don't mean like the length of games because of the number of minutes, but the NFL took, 5 minutes off, I think, of the overtime period. College football made the change a couple of years ago. Baseball is putting a ghost runner at second base. I think college baseball eventually will have to do that because they need to mirror what the major leagues are doing. Soccer does.
Do you think they go to 7 innings, Phil, ever?
I don't think. Okay. I think they'll still be. I think they'll still do 9 innings. Yeah. But there is this sort of movement among sports to, I guess, ensure that you don't see 18, 19 inning games too often. I think there was still a 17 inning game last year in the bigs, and there are more ties in the NFL now just because there's the 5 fewer minutes in the overtime period, and you get this. Like that's one aspect of last night's game. It was such an entertaining football game that I hate that it came down to 2-point conversions. Just like I hated even though it was dramatic and fun to watch in the World Cup final. The
penalty kicks, yeah.
I hated that it came down to penalty kicks.
Yeah. I almost say, Bob, if they're going to do that 2-point thing, maybe make it a 7-yard play. If you're just kind of doing a one-off, I don't know. I liked it better the other way, where you got the ball at the 25, and then when you had to go for 2 after the second overtime. Yeah.
Or maybe even put the ball at the 10 and say, okay, you got 4 downs to score. You can kick a field goal on third down. But it was funny when they called the targeting on Arkansas. Somebody by me was saying, "Oh, they've got 4 downs now," and I said, "No, they're just going to replay. It's a 2-point play. They've got 1 down to make it. They don't have 4 downs."
But they get half the distance, yeah.
Yeah, well, no, yeah. It was a big play because one Arkansas got a stop, and I really don't think that hit by McAdoo. I mean, I think Arkansas had stopped him clean, and he obviously wasn't trying to target. And I guess you can get semantics, but I thought, you got to be kidding me. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. But it was like, what?
It's a collision sport, man. You got to fire your shot. I like McAdoo, man, and we got to get. It's a collision.
He's a great player.
Yeah.
I thought that was a very questionable call, but they upheld it. But like I say, with targeting, I've given up trying to figure out. Even when I see 3 or 4 replays, I've given up trying to figure out what they're going to do. I don't know, you guys probably saw this. Hunter Yurachek, now he did not call out it was a Pac-12 crew. He did not call him out Pac-12. He basically tweeted something like, this I'm paraphrasing, but, I appreciate the SEC officiating and their review in Birmingham, blah, blah, blah. It was basically saying, hey, those guys, are lousy, that was a lousy crew, or they called it a lousy game anyway. And I'll just say something real quick. You guys got a minute. The 1971 Liberty Bowl, when Tennessee beat Arkansas, some very controversial calls, 14-13. They had Bowls had split crews, Southwest Conference refs, SEC refs.
That don't even sound good, Bob. Yeah.
Yeah. Because of that game, they started doing neutral crews. So last night you had a Big 12 team and an SEC team and a Pac-12 crew. And every bowl game has a neutral crew that's not connected to either the conference of either school. And that's a direct result of what happened to Arkansas in the 1971 Liberty Bowl.
Well, the Pac-12 doesn't have the best reputation, I think, as far as officiating is concerned. And the next time that Arkansas is in a bowl game involving some of those officials from the West Coast, I'm going to run in the other direction. Bob, appreciate you, man. Enjoy the rest of the drive. Be safe and your Mickey D's. And we'll look forward to revisiting in 2023. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. You guys take care.
Thanks, Bob.
You got it. Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Dropped a little knowledge on us, and he's right. That was the first targeting call against Arkansas all year long. How about that?
And no ejection, though. So, I mean, that's kind of usually when it's the ejections, only when I'm really worried about it.
BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. BetOnline, where the game starts.